Assalamu alaikum. Let's cook. We are not patriots. Black people are not patriots. I don't care what nobody says. When white Americans have a chance, if they are involved in a scenario, a situation, they will always show you that they are racist. It don't matter how small or big it is. Let's talk about Shoshana Johnson. Now, this is a black woman. She was in the U.S. military. She was a cook in the Army with the 507th Maintenance Company. Now, she's doing her thing in the Iraq war over there in Nasiriyah, okay? Nasiriyah, Iraq, March 2003, okay? She's over there in 2003. Now, she's a cook. She's with the maintenance company. Her convoy took a wrong turn during an early invasion. When they took that wrong turn, they were ambushed and captured. They were ambushed and captured. Shoshana, she was shot in both ankles. She was beaten during the capture. She became the first African-American woman taken prisoner of war in the military history in the United States. So they say. I don't know how true that is, but so they say. She's the first African-American woman taken prisoner of war in the military history of the United States. 11 soldiers from her unit were killed in this ambush.
What's your name?
Shana.
Shana?
Yes.
Where do you come from?
Texas.
You come from Texas?
Yes.
اسمها شانا وقادمة من مدينة تكساس. How old are you?
30.
Yes? 30 سنة.
From any unit?
From any unit in American Army.
507th Maintenance.
Yes?
507 Maintenance.
507 من الوحدة 507 الأمريكية.
You see, it got real crucial for her out there. She didn't know if she was getting her head chopped off or what. You know what I mean? You could look at her eyes, but luckily they didn't take her out. She was held for 22 days. She was moved between several detention facilities in Baghdad. Finally, they were freed. They were rescued or whatever on April 13th, 2003. They were flown to a few hospitals, first to Kuwait, then to a hospital in Qatar, and she received treatment for her leg injuries. Okay, that's her story. That's what happened right there. I'm glad that she is okay now, recovering still from this traumatic experience. Again, this went down in 2003. Now, let's go to another person who was there. Jessica, white woman named Jessica Lynch. She was a hostage also. She's with the same unit as Shoshana Johnson, the 507th Maintenance Company. But when they rescued this crew, right, they immediately turned Jessica Lynch into America's sweetheart. Why her? Because she's white, and that's what Americans do. Immediately, again, she's with the same crew as Shoshana Johnson. Jessica Lynch became the face of the story. She got a made-for-TV movie and best-selling memoir of her own. She was treated as a single hero. That was the whole narrative. Shoshana Johnson, very little mainstream coverage. Jessica Lynch, marketed and confirmed as the #1 New York Times bestseller book, okay? Got a very large advance, $1 million. Her book was written by Rick Bragg, who's already a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, which that alone gives it a major jump. Her book was quickly released within months of her rescue. They went right to it so that they could get these, get themselves going. White folks even tried to come up with lies to make her story appear more juicy. Even she had to say all this stuff wasn't true. Check this out. In the weeks after her rescue, there were all kind of news reports coming out of the Pentagon that the white girl fought fiercely until she ran out of ammunition. She was shot. She was stabbed. She resisted her captors heroically. Lies. This girl right here had to testify before Congress, and she said, listen, I never fired my weapon. It was jammed. I was knocked out unconscious in a vehicle crash. She didn't even take the credit for these things that they were trying to put her. That was the white community doing that. You know what I mean? She said, I'm just a survivor. And she even criticized the exaggerated portrayal of her experience. They were doing that because she's white. When you're white, you're going to get the privilege, man. You're going to get that perk even if you don't really want it, even if you want to tell the truth. It don't matter. She says, I'm just a survivor. But you had the Pentagon and all these media outlets running around saying that she had gunshots and stab wounds and she fired a weapon till it was all gone, trying to make her on some G.I. Jane type stuff. She did not get shot, but guess who did? Shoshana Johnson did. The black woman got shot twice. They were willing to disregard the black woman getting shot and make a lie about the white woman getting shot. Didn't shoot her weapon. She was probably knocked out the whole time, unconscious, who knows? Shoshana Johnson book, remember the white girl got the $1 million deal. Shoshana Johnson's book came out 7 years after this was all over. Now, she was also under a gag order, a military gag order. Shoshana Johnson and these other people who were rescued, they were under a military gag order. And for somebody like her, being under a gag order ain't cool because you don't have the privilege of just being white on the cover to where you could just come up with any story. You got to come with some juice when you black. Like, what happened? You can't talk about it. You know what I'm saying? The white girl, they could just put her on the cover. She could be G.I. Jane and make lies up about her or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that's what goes down. Now, here's the deal. Shoshana Johnson, the black woman, she suffered lasting physical effects. Traumatic arthritis in her neck, back, elbows, all kind of stuff. They say that's due to her getting shot and beat down or whatever. Mental health therapy and all that other stuff. She did write a memoir. It's called I'm Still Standing, From Captive U.S. Soldiers to Free Citizen, My Journey Home. She still speaks at veterans events and things like that or whatever. You know what I mean? Does volunteer work with her church and veterans organizations. And that's what she's doing, yo. The white girl got the big $1 million deal, all that. And didn't, I mean, come on, man. And check, y'all, it gets worse. Where there is white people, there will be white people-ing. Now, I told you about the injuries. Both of these women were injured, but of course, the black woman, Shoshana, was shot 2 times. She had much more injuries than the white girl. The white girl was banged up too, because she was in that vehicle that got all mangled up. She was hurt. Jessica Lynch. She was captured on March 23rd. Same date. Again, people, they with the same unit, the same crew doing the same thing. But Jessica Lynch was only held for 9 days. Shoshana was held for 22 days. Okay? They got rescued at different times. Now, Jessica Lynch was discharged as a private first class on August 27, 2003, but she was discharged as medically retired, honorably discharged, but she was placed on a temporary disability. That's meaning she could have stayed in the Army for up to 5 years after she got reevaluated. You know what I mean? So they're like, yo, you in bad shape, but if you want to stick around, you can stick around or whatever, and we'll reevaluate. And, you know, if you want to stay, or you could leave right now and get this 80%. You can get this 80% benefit and you can go, okay? Now, Jessica Lynch, she said, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and retire. Of course, she got that bag of money coming $1 million book deals. She took that 80% disability. Shoshana Johnson. Now we know how banged up she was. They told her that she would only receive 30%. 30%. Now this gap is a $600 to $700 difference between the two, Jessica and Shoshana. Meaning the white girl would get $700 more than Jessica, than the black woman. They give the one 80%, and the one who was in worse shape, the black woman, 30%. That's what the military did. Why? Because that's what they do to black people. You're black, you are not worth what a white person is worth to them. That's it. There are all kinds of studies and lawsuits about the racial disparities in the military. It just comes down to white people being racist. That's it. They can try to spin it with all the long words they want to, whatever, man. You know what I mean? And this could be anywhere. Where there is white people, there will be racial disparities. White people will always be white peopling. That is what it is. You could put that in the military, McDonald's, cartoons, candy, TV, sport, whatever it is. These people will always look out for their own. The worth of a black life is not the same as them. And you could look at Jessica Lynch and tell her status in life. First, you could see she comes from what they call white trash. First, white Americans do not let their daughters or women go to the military unless she's like, from one of them white trash Appalachian Trail type, Kentucky type places. White people don't do that. You know what I mean? They don't have to. The white people who are in the military are them. You know what I mean? Those are the type of people. And you can look at her facial features and stuff. I mean, I could now, and you can tell that she comes from, the white trash, the poor people out there. You know what I'm talking about. And they tell black people, oh, it's not about race. It's about class. You even have some of these buck dancing Negroes saying that, oh, it's not about race. It's about class. It's rich versus poor. Baloney. Ask any white person who's from these poor areas, the poorest white people on the planet, ask them who they hate. Even the poor Americans, they are racist as well. It's not about that, yo. It's about white and black. And they're usually poor because they're just some despicable, lazy people. Because when you're white, all you got to do is get up and wash up, clean up, try to look the part, stay off of drugs, and you can make it pretty far. A white person from the Appalachian Trails of West Virginia somewhere will get closer or start off closer to the finish line than a black person who graduated from Cornell. All they got to do is get up. Whiteness alone gets you that boost. You know what I mean? White people will always look out for white people first. That is American. That's what it is. And when it comes down to this military coverage right here, this is how wild it is for black people. You could have some fat, stinking, lazy, miserable, bitter white lady in the office who's in charge of benefits that simply just wants to give you 30% and give a white person 80% just because they white. That's what they can do. See, again, all it takes is one white person to screw your life up. They get on board. They know what to do. Who would do that? Who would give this black woman right here 30% and give her 80%? That was just strictly from a white person being racist. Anyway, people get in the comments easy.